Good morning, traders. Today is Monday, October 25th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, well, what are we looking at here this morning? Well, over the weekend and the overnight, the market just kind of rotated around and balanced inside the previous day's range. And it also kind of rotated and just bounced around basically where it was the night before that. So you can kind of see the market is just kind of bouncing around in this area. Now remember, over the last couple of weeks, we've had a lot of excess to the upside. And there are two ways to balance off that excess. You either push higher and then rotate at higher prices, or you push higher and then you have to pull back down with price to find support. So as we can see, momentum is slowly coming to an end. How do we know the momentum is coming to an end, right? Well, first and foremost, we made a new low yesterday on Friday, below the previous day's low. Prior to that, every day made higher lows. So that was the first signal that the momentum was coming to an end. Actually, the first one was this day where the balancing area, the value area overlapped the previous day's value area. Then we got the lower low. And then now we have the overnight rotating once again in the same area. So all of these are just signals that that momentum that's been pushing the market forward, basically since the low, is coming to an end. It's weaning off, but we still don't know, how it's going to end. Is it going to end by just rotating at higher prices and then attempting to break out to the upside, or is it going to pull back down a little bit and backfill some of these gaps that we've left behind? So in recent history, we talked about this last week. I'll bring it back up here today. Just pull up the old ES chart on the daily. Okay, so in the recent history, the way we've done it is we've created these big pushes higher and then rotated sideways. Okay, balanced it off sideways, and then a failure to break out is what brought us back to repair the weakness that we had left behind. We did it again here, rotated sideways, and then a failure to break out is what brought the pullback to repair the weakness we had left behind. And then we did it again here. Okay. We had a breakout. This was a weird one because it was just like a balancing area on top of a balancing area, but it failed to break out. That pulled us back to repair the weakness we had left behind, right? So to me, it would not be unusual at all for the market to just start kind of rotating around in here and then trying to push higher. And only if that fails do we pull back down to fill those gaps. I could be wrong, though. There's no reason in the world why the market wouldn't have a pullback to repair some of this weakness. Let's actually look at the, it's easier to see on the SPX. So you can clearly see on the SPX we have gaps all over the place that need to be repaired. Okay. So that's the first thing that's on my mind this morning is, the momentum seems to be coming to an end. So the first question is the momentum officially over? And if so, how are we going to balance off all the excess created from this big push higher? My guess is rotation sideways. Okay. So as the market opens, we are opening inside the previous day's range, but we're pretty close to that high. So as long as the market stays inside the previous day's range, okay, that's the bell. As long as the market stays inside the previous day's range, I expect we're going to get some chop this morning. The market is just going to grind up and down. But if it's able to get back above that all-time high at 44.51.50, if it's able to push back above there and find support, that could be a good long trade for continuation higher. So if it can get up here, come back down, and then build in some support right here, you're looking at blue skies, baby. Going up. Ding, ding. But if we get resistance in there, okay, or we look above and fail and pull back down, my next assumption will be rotation. I'm thinking we'll probably rotate around inside of this area. So I'll just be kind of monitoring for that. And if we break below Friday's low, that's when I'll get bearish to start repairing the gaps. The first gap is just below Friday's low, and then the others are lower. Okay, so I'll monitor for continuation After we repair the first gap, does the market keep selling? Okay, then I assume we're targeting the next one. If it keeps selling, so on and so forth on the way down. But that to me seems the least likely scenario this morning. Highest probability in my mind is rotation sideways. But let's wait and see. They could still get another push higher. The momentum may still be in the market. But we've had a lot of signals here that it's weaning. So at this point, we just sit back and watch the chop. As far as the lows go, this area right here should have pretty strong support. Okay. So that's like anywhere between 45.3475 and 45.3775. That area should act as support. So I wouldn't be looking to short unless we got down into there, failed to find support. Then I would short for the repair of these 2-week references below. And like I said, monitor for continuation once it gets down to the low of the day. Does it find support there? If not, fill the gap. Does it find support there? If not, next gap. Does it find support there? So on and so forth. Choppity chop chops. Cotton Dog, does the overnight single prints double distribution do anything for me? I find it a little bit interesting that it happens to be right in the node of volume, right? Node of volume from yesterday, node of volume from the previous overnight, and then they just glide right through that. So that's interesting. It's a sign that they're building up the support above where they previously did, which is just like a slightly bullish thing to see. But the double distribution I don't really pay much attention to that in the overnight. All right, market internals open to bullish, but they're pulling back here, absorbing some of this overnight activity. Overnight activity, I forgot to mention that was net long, increasing the odds of a counter auction, which is what we're getting here. So now the question is, where can the market find support? Where do the buyers start to want to do business? David Glass, good morning to you. Welcome. First one in this morning. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Rad, good morning to you. Mangala, good to see you. Welcome. Ronald is here. Good morning to you. Shuba Hodeep back with us. Good morning. Sanju is here. Good morning to you. Amir, good morning. Trading Donkey, thank you, brother. I worked hard on that. I know it doesn't seem like much, but that video I made on the Paul Tudor Jones documentary was a lot of work. So I appreciate that. Jose, good morning to you. JG with the GM. In the hizzy fo shizzy. Nicholas, good morning to you. Oh, thank you again, Shubaho. Appreciate it. Mangala saying he will stay patiently. I can't tell you the number of times I lost money trying to make guesses in this early morning chop. They get you so freaked out. Oh, it's gonna fall. A second ago that you were like, oh no. And then they just build up a little support, and now we'll grind. So patience, whenever you open inside the previous day's range, I always like to just sit back and give the market a few minutes Just give me a clear signal of what it's doing. 2 minutes. Good morning to you. David V. Good morning to you. Jay. Good morning to you. Brett, how do I read the advancers versus decliners right now? It looks crazy, right? Doesn't it look super scary? It doesn't really worry me. The overnight inventory was net long, so that created, that's why it opened so high up here. And that immediate pullback was just, there were no buyers. There was nobody ready to do business there. So the sellers kind of piled on and gave us that push lower. But now is where we can start to, usually, you got to give the internals a good like 10, 15 minutes before they send a more clear signal. But what we'd like to see now is we'd like to see it wick its way back up above the 0 line if we're going to get continuation higher. Otherwise, it's probably a sign we're going to rotate today or pull back. Scooball, good morning to you. NQ up, ES down. Let's take a look at the NQ. A lot of earnings coming up for the NQ, so it might be a little choppy this week. Might be a little cray-cray. Okay, NQ, same as ES, is just clearly run out of momentum to the upside. It has developed clearly a balancing area here. So I would call yesterday's high the balancing area high. Don't quite have a clear balancing area low just yet. So we'll use, actually, let's use the bottom of the gap. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with how balancing areas work, a lot of times the market kind of gets stuck in a range over a longer term basis, over days. And we call that a balancing area. And the clearest way to know where the highs and lows of that balancing area is if the market pushes below them and then pulls back in. We call that a look above and fail. Does it cause the market to trade all the way to the opposite? So you could clearly see that's kind of what happened up here, which is why I'm calling this the balancing area high. They pushed above here, came back down. It caused them to trade to the lower end of balance. So, we would have expected to get all the way back up to the upper end of balance here today. But if we come back down to the lows, we can check and see if that is a balancing area as well. So at first, when you first start to notice a balancing area, it's really hard to pin exactly where the highs and lows are. But then you just kind of watch how the market reacts to those areas, and it gives you more insight. Okay, things are starting to get bearish here. Pushing below this node of volume is a little bearish. We should have found some support in there. We're getting nothing on the internals. So we're looking to go lower. Okay, so now I'm watching to see, does the market start to build resistance as it tries to push higher here? It seems like it is building some resistance. So that will lead it to further downside continuation. Next potential support is this node of volume around 45.25. If that fails, we're looking at yesterday's low, and we're keeping in mind there's a gap just below there that needs filling. Okay, buyers are starting to step in here. So I'm looking for resistance now in this node of volume that starts at about 45.3375 to see if the sellers are waiting there. Newbie question, what is a gap? A gap is basically just where the market jumped up overnight. So you can see here on, let me just zoom out a little bit here. On the 19th, the market closed. The highest the prices went was to 45.12.25. But then the next day, the market opened higher and it never came back down to yesterday's high. You can see there's like that space there from the high of the previous day to the low of the next day. There's like a gap in between it. On the market profile software, it shows us these little arrows. That's what we call a gap. And those have very high statistical probability of being backfilled, meaning the market needs to trade back down to the high from the 19th. But like I said, momentum, I've been talking about this a lot lately. Momentum can outpower gaps and all weakness. If the market is desperate to go higher, it can leave that stuff behind. So I'm not going to worry about that gap fill unless we get below this node of volume around the 25 level, 45.25. Trading Donkey, big dog hedgies, fooling weak hands out of their long positions. Am I right? Could be. Could be. Could also just be rotation, right? Might bring in support here, push back up towards the high, find resistance, and then push back down. To me, it's the play of momentum. Mark, good morning to you. I had an excellent weekend. I hope everyone else did. Philip, good morning to you. Fausto in the house. Good to see you, brother. Phoenix, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Vincent, good morning to you. River Rock, good morning. Jitten, howdy. Cotton dog to be or not to be, like it'll be a B-shaped profile. That's great. Donkey's plan for today: identify the range, trade the range. I like it. So you think we're going to get that rotational day? We're going to start a balancing area. Let's see what happens. Philip, thank you as well. Appreciate you guys. Arthur, morning from rainy California. I think it's raining everywhere. It's raining on the East Coast. It's raining in Central. It's raining on the West Coast. Wow, Shubaho, you got bullish quick. So you think this is support here? For a pushback to the all-time high? Knife the Great Flood. Yeah, we'll see. Poor California, man. They're so excited for the rain to put out the fire, and then they find out it's going to cause flooding. It ain't easy in the Sunshine State. Fred, good morning to you. Feels like sellers are seriously stepping in. I don't know. It feels a little 50-50 to me. There are more sellers than buyers here, but it doesn't feel overwhelming just yet. Harry, is this support? It could be. It definitely could be. You know, the easiest way to tell a balancing area low is to look for like key support resistance and do they hold up. So you got both of these nodes of volume. Whoops. You got both of these nodes of volume here, which could act as potential support resistance, right? Then you got the overnight finding support there. Then we just had a liquidation break on Friday that sold right back up above it. So you can kind of ignore that. That's just temporary market behavior. Then you got most of the volume and time from this overnight. So you could have a balancing area low right in here, which would mean this would be a good place to find support. But I still think it's a bit too early to make that call. Good taper on the low. Don't love the 51 contracts. I always prefer to have more than 100, but good taper. Oh, did I mix up the sunshine states? Well, I lived in California for over a decade and the sun was shining every day. So, what is California's thing? Can you consider Friday a look above and fail? You mean of the all-time high? No, I wouldn't say that at all. As a matter of fact, I would have expected much worse, right? I would have expected that the all-time high had a bunch of sellers waiting there, and they really weren't. It was just a little bit of profit taking and then pulled back down into the range. So, no, I don't see that as bearish at all. Shibaho, I don't know if you asked that question before I said it, but yeah, good taper on the low. Doesn't mean it will be the low of the day, just that if it is, it would make sense. It's got good taper. For those that are new to the channel and don't know what I mean, you can see if you just look at the volume nodes, you can see how it's getting less and less and less and less. That's just a sign that they're running out of sellers slowly but surely. And if you have no sellers down here, well, why would the price need to go lower? Golden State, that's what it is. All right, well, pushing back above this node from Friday is a little bit bullish here. If we were going to get resistance for continuation lower, we should have got it there. So it looks like that's good support. And now the question becomes, heading back up to the highs, can we get continuation? Now remember, we're still in the first 30 minutes of the day, so this could all just be chop. They could push their way right back up to here and then turn around and come right back down again without breaking a sweat. David, why would you want to see 100 at the low on the taper? I would think 51 is better. Yeah, you're right. But I've just noticed in the past that like whenever the market makes really good taper, like taper that does last for the rest of the day, it generally has at least 100 contracts on the low or the high. But it doesn't have to be. There's no problem with leaving 50 contracts. It's just like if it had 100 right there, I'd be like, boom, that's gorgeous taper. I'd be like, that's perfect taper. Whereas now I'm saying it's good taper. I would just like to see that one little adjustment. Very, very nuanced difference. Armand, what platform do I use for the market profile? This is called Window Trader. Window spelled without a W at the end. And the section over here on the left, where you see the little candlesticks and the numbers, that is the volume profile. And then the letters playing out to the right, that is the market profile. Donkey, if I was in 2 tick increments, it'd look good. I've got my other chart in 2 tick. Let me look. Yeah, you're right. 2 tick increments, it's perfect. Perfect taper. Back to my other chart. All right, so I'll get bullish if we get above this node right that we made this morning, say like 45, 47. And I'll be looking to enter if we push above there and then pull back down and we find support in that area. That would be the long trade for me for continuation up to the all-time high. But as long as we stay inside this A period range, my assumption is we're just going to rotate back down. Screwball, yeah, there was a long time I used VWAP. That was my main go-to when I was a scalper. VWAP is great. It's a very reliable thing. I just don't use it anymore because I've talked about that at excess here. It's just a distraction to look at too many things. One starts to contradict the other. So I just stick with the market profile and the internals now. All right, well, it's looking a little bullish here. They're building up support. Now, remember what I talked about this morning with the potential of a balancing area. Where is the spot over and over again that we ran out of buyers? Right in there. So I got to see them get above there, and then I buy it when they come back down and find support. TFT. I'm glad to hear it, brother. Thank you for saying so. Donkey, that's my favorite George Bush quote. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, you just don't get fooled again. Shubho, thank you for the reminder. Please smash that like button. If you're new here, hit that subscribe as well and the notification bell. That way you can stay tuned to all the latest. Good morning, Gnarls99. Your name sounds very similar to my name. Okay, so we should find some support with the ticks around the zero line here. Buyers should start to step in if we're going to get continuation higher. Otherwise, we're probably looking at some rotation. Rocket, as usual, knocking out a few wins in the first 30 minutes and then done for the day. Oh, I'm so jealous of you. Was in finance for 15 years, 16-hour days. I like this life much better. Yeah, it sounds like a slight improvement. All right, buyers are starting to give up. They're getting those ticks below the zero line. Increasing the odds, we're going to fall back down into this node from earlier today around the 34 level. Scalping strategy. I don't have any courses right now. I'm working on one. But in the meantime, you can follow me all day, every day if you just join the Brigade. Only costs $10 a month, and you can ask all the questions in the world. I also recommend Jim Dalton's books, Markets and Profile and Mind Over Markets, as well as his courses if they're not too dear for you. And you can find those at jimdaltontrading.com. Tesla doing something funky? Ooh, major gap up. Jesus, Tesla's at 960 a share. That is so crazy. Yeah, obviously, Pred, I mean, after the split. I mean, just like step back and look at like a monthly chart. Let me pull that up on screen. I mean, just look at that. That's the monthly for Tesla. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, sure, that's Tesla, not BTC. Well, now the two are kind of linked because Tesla owns so much BTC. I don't know what the exact figures are, but I think they've made close to like, at least more than tens of billions just off of BTC. If anybody's got those figures, I'd love to hear them. But yeah, they're doing so well just on that alone. Forget the fact that they invented humanoid robots that are going to take over the workforce. All this other stuff. Just their BTC investment. All right, well, this is getting a little more bullish. The tempo's kind of boring and feels a bit rotational, but we're staying above the zero line on those ticks. The other two internals, the breadth and the advanced reverse decliners, are trending higher. So this thing is setting itself up to push higher here today. Oh, I wouldn't touch Facebook right now. That company's like so in the air at the moment with all the bad news coming out. Skewball, NQ even more bullish? Let's go take a look. No, I wouldn't say that. They're about the same. And I would say I would treat it exactly the same as the ES. So to go long, I'd need to see it get above the high and then come back down to this like 15, 425 level and then build in some support here before I'd be ready to go long for continuation higher. Well, it doesn't look like we're trying to trend here today. It's feeling more like rotation. So now what we want to see is the market pulls back down into this node of volume we built up this morning around 34-ish. We want to see the market find support there. If it starts to break lower, starts to break these lows, we might be looking at a further pullback. Truly, if the market's going to rotate today, we should also start to get some bodies of these ticks below the zero line. And they just kind of keep crossing back up and through. As long as we keep kind of keeping just wicks below, that's a little more bullish. But if we start to get candlestick bodies that are crossing up and through the zero line, that's a sign of rotation. Scalping strategy, how can you know when I'm offering the TPO classes? I mean, it'll be a while. I'm still building them out. So, probably a month or two. If you want to learn now, I would suggest starting with Jim Dalton's books or taking a course with him. Also, you can just watch Shadow Trader, the YouTube channel Shadow Trader. Peter Resnicek does like a little section every week in his weekly videos about market profile. If you just go back and watch like the last 10 of those and just skip straight to where he's talking about profile, you'll probably learn quite a bit. That would be my suggestion. When you say the poor high, Jitten, are you talking about yesterday's high? Or are you considering today's high poor because it's one tick from the overnight high? Both are totally valid. Mangala, not taking any trades today? What about later in the day if the market gives you a clearer idea of what it's doing? All right. Well, printing the C period here, we got the B period completely inside the A period. So that really just doesn't give us a signal one way or another. It's sort of a sign of rotation, or sort of a sign of uncertainty for the market. So what we will generally assume is we're going to go with whichever direction the C period breaks that B period. So if it breaks the B period high, we'll look for the market to continue pushing higher. If it breaks the B period low, we'll look for it to continue pushing lower. But keeping in mind, we may just be in a larger balancing area, right? The market might just be ready to kind of spend a day or two bouncing around in here. It doesn't always have to move to a new place every day. So I'm sorry I don't have any clearer signals for you guys. If it does break the B period high, it will also be one time framing higher, which is slightly bullish. And we'll still be looking, right now we still got all those ticks, just wicks below the zero line, which is slightly bullish. So keep that in mind. And with that, I shall bid you all farewell. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't checked out the video on my channel about Paul Tudor Jones, please do check it out. You can just go to the homepage and find it there. It's called Trader. And otherwise, I will see you all here tomorrow morning. Thank you all so very much. Have a great rest of your day. Diane, Dalton's got a public webinar. Yeah, I always suggest people sign up for those. Great little tidbits that he gives away for free. It'll probably be posted on his Twitter.